The Mississippian culture, America's forgotten pyramid builders. In the heart of present-day St. Louis, Missouri, beneath the sprawling urban landscape and just across the river from the iconic Gateway Arch, lies one of archaeology's most stunning secrets. Here, rising from the Illinois floodplains like ancient sentinels, stand the remnants of what was once North America's greatest indigenous city, a metropolis that rivaled medieval London in size and complexity. Yet most Americans have never heard of Cahokia, the crown jewel of the Mississippian culture, where master engineers built pyramids that still dwarf many structures today. This is the story of America's forgotten pyramid builders, whose sophisticated civilization flourished for over 500 years, creating urban centers, intricate trade networks, and monumental architecture that challenges everything we thought we knew about pre-Columbian North America. The rise of an empire. Around 1050 CE, while Europe was struggling through the Dark Ages and the Crusades were just beginning, something extraordinary was happening in the Mississippi River Valley. Indigenous peoples who had lived as small-scale farmers and hunters for centuries suddenly began converging on a single location near present-day St. Louis. What drove this unprecedented migration remains one of archaeology's most compelling mysteries. The site they chose was strategically brilliant. Fertile floodplains blessed by the convergence of three major rivers, the Mississippi, Missouri, and Illinois. But location alone cannot explain what happened next. In less than a century, these Native Americans constructed the largest prehistoric settlement north of Mexico, complete with massive earthen pyramids, sophisticated urban planning, and a population that may have reached 20,000 people. The centerpiece of this remarkable city was Monk's Mound, a colossal earthen pyramid that required the movement of over 22 million cubic feet of soil, all carried in baskets, one load at a time. Standing 100 feet tall and covering 14 acres at its base, this monument was larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza in terms of volume. At its summit sat a massive wooden structure, likely the residence and ceremonial center of Cahokia's paramount chief. But Monk's Mound was just the beginning. The Cahokians built over 120 earthen mounds of varying sizes and functions, creating a carefully planned urban landscape that reflected complex social hierarchies and spiritual beliefs. Some mounds served as platforms for elite residences, others as burial sites for the nobility, and still others as markers for astronomical observations. Masters of engineering and astronomy. The sophistication of Mississippian engineering becomes even more remarkable when we consider their tools. No metal implements, no wheels, no draft animals. Every grain of earth in their massive constructions was moved by human labor, yet their precision rivals that of ancient Egypt or Mesopotamia. Perhaps nowhere is this precision more evident than in Cahokia's woodhenge, a series of large timber circles that functioned as astronomical calendars. These structures, rebuilt multiple times over the centuries, demonstrate the Mississippians' profound understanding of celestial mechanics. The posts were positioned with mathematical precision to mark the summer and winter solstices, the spring and fall equinoxes, and other significant astronomical events crucial for agricultural timing. The city's layout itself reveals urban planning sophistication that would not be seen again in North America until European colonization. Cahokia was organized around a massive grand plaza that could hold thousands of people for ceremonies and gatherings. Residential areas were carefully zoned, with elite compounds near the ceremonial center and commoner neighborhoods arranged in well-planned districts. An enormous wooden palisade surrounded the city's core, complete with watchtowers and defensive gates. A continental trading empire. But here's where the story becomes truly extraordinary. Cahokia wasn't an isolated phenomenon. The Mississippians created a trade network that stretched from the Great Lakes to the Gulf of Mexico, from the Atlantic coast to the Rocky Mountains. Archaeological evidence reveals that goods from across the continent flowed into Cahokia's markets: copper from Lake Superior, shells from the Gulf Coast, obsidian from the Yellowstone region, and mica from the Appalachian Mountains. This wasn't simple bartering between neighboring tribes. The Mississippians had developed what anthropologists now recognize as one of the most sophisticated pre-industrial economic systems in North American history. They standardized weights and measures, created specialized craft workshops, and established trade relationships that required complex diplomatic arrangements across vast distances. The influence of Mississippian culture spread through this network, creating secondary centers throughout the Southeast and Midwest. Moundville in Alabama, Etowah in Georgia, and Spiro in Oklahoma all show the distinctive characteristics of Mississippian civilization. Planned towns built around ceremonial plazas, platform mounds supporting elite residences, and artwork depicting the complex spiritual beliefs that unified this far-flung culture. The great mystery deepens. Yet for all their achievements, the Mississippians left us with one of archaeology's greatest puzzles. Around 1400 CE, just as European explorers were beginning to dream of westward voyages, this magnificent civilization began to collapse. Cahokia was largely abandoned. Its grand plazas fell silent, and the extensive trade networks that had connected half the continent began to fragment. What caused this dramatic decline remains hotly debated among scholars. Climate change certainly played a role. The medieval warm period that had made agriculture so productive was ending, replaced by cooler temperatures and more erratic weather patterns. Archaeological evidence suggests periods of warfare and political instability. Some researchers point to environmental degradation caused by deforestation and soil depletion around major centers. But perhaps most intriguingly, some evidence suggests that ideological changes may have contributed to the Mississippian decline. The elaborate ceremonies and hierarchical social structures that had defined the culture for centuries may have been challenged by new religious movements, emphasizing egalitarianism and decentralization. Echoes in history. When European explorers finally reached the Southeast in the 16th century, they encountered the descendants of the Mississippians, peoples like the Cherokee Creek Choctaw and Chickasaw, who still maintained some of the ancient traditions, but lived in smaller, less centralized communities. The Spanish conquistador Hernando de Soto, traveling through the region in 1540, described impressive towns and powerful chiefs that were clearly the inheritors of Mississippian civilization, though already much reduced from the culture's peak. Tragically, European diseases decimated these populations before ethnographers could fully document their connections to the ancient mound builders. By the time serious archaeological investigation began in the 19th century, so much knowledge had been lost that early researchers couldn't believe Native Americans had built the sophisticated earthworks they were uncovering. The legacy lives on. Today, as we stand among the surviving mounds at Cahokia Mound's State Historic Site, we're confronted with the remarkable achievements of a civilization that challenges our preconceptions about pre-Columbian North America. The Mississippians weren't primitive hunter-gatherers scratching out a subsistence living in the wilderness. They were urban planners, engineers, astronomers, artists, and traders who created one of the most sophisticated societies in the medieval world. Their story reminds us that human ingenuity and cultural achievement aren't limited to the civilizations we read about in traditional history books. In the heart of North America, indigenous peoples built pyramids, planned cities, and created trade networks that connected vast portions of the continent, centuries before Columbus set sail. The next time you see the St. Louis skyline, remember that you're looking across the river from what was once one of the world's great cities, a place where master builders moved millions of tons of earth to create monuments that still inspire awe nearly 1,000 years later. The Mississippians may be forgotten by popular history, but their achievements stand as eternal testimony to the remarkable capabilities of America's first urban civilization. Their pyramids still rise from the Illinois prairie, silent witnesses to a golden age that reminds us that the story of human achievement in the Americas began long before European ships appeared on the horizon.